Yeah, John, it's nice to meet you. Although I feel like you've met me, well, I've met you about a million times because you have followed
Yeah.
me over social media for a really long time. So it's quite nice to actually speak to you for once. So hi.
Hello, it's great to be here. Thank you so much. Can I just check because I'm currently at the venue for AdCon. Funnily enough, just behind this door is the ballroom. We've just been here mapping things out. So I've slipped away to the bar, and I'm hoping that audio is clear enough. There's no background noise. Is this okay?
We're good. We can hear you loud and clear. And
Fantastic.
I recognise the wall. I've been in that hotel many times.
Yes. Distinct wall.
The distinct wall of Wembley. Yeah, I'm really excited for the event, John. I'm super, super excited. Guys, for those of you that haven't, I mean, if you don't know who John Pempathy is, you must have been hiding under a rock somewhere. I mean, I don't know how. But just for those of you that don't know who John is, I gave you a bit of an introduction. The reason why I'm so excited to have John on today is because, of course, he's had incredible success with his business, and his businesses over the last so many years has generated millions in sales and has been just helping so many people overcome and with demystifying marketing, really simplifying things. John, I love the way you teach stuff. I love the way that you explain things. But one of the things I absolutely love about you, and the reason why I'm so excited to have you on the show with us this morning, is that your integrity and your values are outstanding in a world where there are so many marketing sharks. And that's, for me, is what really stands out for you. And so, I'm really interested to drill into kind of like your take on sales today, and how you have, you talk about this anti-alpha sales strategy that you use. You generated 30 million over the last few years, but you do that in a way that is soulful, in a way that feels good, and in a way that supports people rather than chases people down. And I'm really excited for our audience to hear this today as well, because we are in the middle at the moment of a 5-day masterclass where we're teaching people about how to build community. How do you build a real strong community of leads, prospects, and people that become a part of your brand, that enable you to start creating a movement? And really at the core of that, it's about putting people first, And so, yeah, welcome. I'm super stoked to have you here. It's really, really exciting. So,
Well, thank you. And I really appreciate all the kind words as well. That means a lot. Thank you.
Can we start from the top? Like, how did you get into this? Like, how did you become such a freaking powerhouse? I know that you told me that you've had a couple of like failed businesses. I mean, guys, drop it in the chat if you've had a failed business before. I'll put my hand up. I think we've all got at least one of those under our belt. But how did you get to where you are now? Just a brief overview.
Yeah, well, I guess, the brief overview would be left school, wanted to do something entrepreneurial. I wasn't sure what an entrepreneur was, but I knew I wanted to have whatever this freedom was that I was looking for. I'm seeing a few people in the chat saying they can't hear. Is it just me? Do you want to check that people can hear me?
I think we're good.
We're good, yeah. Yeah, maybe so a one-off. Yeah, so, I wasn't sure what an entrepreneur was, but I knew that there was this freedom that could be obtained. I could see adults were able to do things that kids weren't, and I couldn't understand that, and I wanted a piece of that. So I was thinking, well, I'll start a business then, and I'll create something for myself. So when you're talking to the career advisor at school, what do you want to do next? Well, I was thinking that I would start a restaurant because I liked cooking. And so I thought I'd go into that. So I went and studied catering for 2 years as a way into starting something like that, and then realized very quickly at 17 years old, going to the bank for 100 grand and kitting out a restaurant, probably not the best idea. I've also since learned, as many of you may have maybe you've got a brain like me, you like to run the numbers and figure things out. Restaurants are actually, it's a horrible business actually, unless you go down the franchise model or you have something incredibly unique. Most restaurants really struggle and go out of business quite quickly. So just a difficult business regardless. So I went to the internet like we all do, right? Searching for things, how to start a business, how to make money. I mean, I'll give you the short version. Started with affiliate marketing, made a success of that. figured out a way to drive traffic to affiliate offers and started making some good money with that. So then I launched my first online course that would teach what I was doing with affiliate marketing and how I was driving traffic. And I made my first million selling that course. And I thought, oh, I quite like selling courses. This is nice. And then as I've been learning more skills in the realm of marketing to be able to sell those courses, I started to find my passion. I love teaching. I like bringing people together. And I really, really love marketing. And so, that's it. Just, we've kind of exploded from there. And, everything that we do now is centered around our, client avatar, coaches, experts, course creators, service providers, people that share their knowledge in some way, shape or form, and teach them how to get clients and do it well, but do it sincerely. And that's obviously what we're going to talk about today, making sure that the sales approach is aligned with the right morals. And I'm sure we're going to get into all of it.
Well, I just want to clarify one thing. Did you actually go to a bank and ask for 100 grand at 17?
No, I realized
okay.
before that, luckily, that's probably not going to work. So I didn't know, but I did do some other bits and pieces. Like I remember doing some door-to-door stuff when I was, no exaggeration, 16 years old. And I had another little business idea. And so I put my dad's suit jacket on. I remember that the sleeves, just if I had my fingers stretched out, the sleeves would go beyond my fingers. And you imagine this young kid at the door with his dad's 46-inch waist jacket on, trying to drum up business. So I've humiliated myself a number of times.
I like that. I think there's this there's this real classic story of like when you're like young, the entrepreneurial spirit is well and truly there, and you're this kind of like gawky, like clunky kid wearing a suit or considering going to a bank and asking for 100 grand, and then you end up in affiliate marketing. It's like that's kind of like the standard story, isn't it?
Yeah,
like I'll
right.
try something fantastical and I'll drum up some business and then I'll go into affiliate marketing. Yeah, that's really fun.
Yeah.
I like that. I think there's a lot of synergy between our side of things as well. Like we're super connected and into the human-centered side of things. And that's, I guess I want to get into that. Like, why do you care about this selling with the soul or having connection? Like, why not go down the, I don't know, there's so much stuff like the Jordan Belfort and just sell ABC. Why do you care to not do that?
Okay, so I think firstly it comes back to the original point that I don't want to sell and I don't enjoy selling. It's not something I want to get into. I think the people that like the kind of, dare I say, I guess this kind of alpha American style of selling, those are the people. This is a huge assumption, but those are the people that enjoy sales and geek out on it and want to add another feather to their sales cap and learn a new one-liner that they can test on the phone and see if that one-liner and I just, I guess that's the difference. You've got these two categories. You've got people that want to do sales and love it, and if they do that, you typically go down the route of selling something other than your own thing, and then you're doing car sales or door-to-door sales or whatever. Maybe you float into the online space, but then you've got another camp. And the other camp is where I sit, where you guys sit, and where our audience here today probably sits, which is that sales is a necessity. It's a part of our business. We can't avoid it, but we don't want to do it. And we said we don't want to do it in the way that we're traditionally taught to do it. So we have to get creative. And to get creative, we've got to solve a couple of problems. The first problem is being effective in sales, because we can't be so relaxed that we never make any sales. So there's got to be some structure, but we've got to couple that with making sure that we're being authentic to who we want to be and portraying ourselves correctly. And that is no exaggeration, something that we've mastered. We have absolutely nailed this process, and it actually works better. I can teach a whole framework on this today. We can do whatever you want to do, but what we do and the way we do it, if done correctly, you will actually out-convert the alpha knuckleheads, and you'll do better than them, actually.
Can I ask you about like longevity and retention as well in just whilst we're doing this kind of high level thing? Because obviously if you've got this alpha you know, way of selling, surely that's something that's going to damage your long-term reputation anyway. So it sounds like there's a drive to like sell in a way that feels good, because selling isn't, you know, something that you love necessarily. But at the same time, what about that longevity retention thing? Like making sure that your reputation is upheld for a long period of time, so you're in business for a long period of time. Surely that's also like a really big thing when it comes to this.
Yeah, I guess it is, but it's also about the audience that you're trying to attract, because some audiences like that stuff. So I think that that's important to dial in. It's like, okay, so who do I want to attract, and now how can I relate to them where they're at, and make sure that I am, of course, being effective in sales, but doing it in a way that they feel wonderful about the process. Because you know, just to name a couple of people, I guess you've got people like Grant Cardone, you've got that Elliot fella, I forget his name, Elliot Army or whatever all that's about. Well, you know, they rile up a group and they love it, you know, but it's because they want to be in that world. They love it. Whereas my clients, they don't. In fact, my clients are similar to those of you that are on the line today, which is that you've got a product, you've got a service, you've got an audience who you want to reach, and you want to have a massive impact. And you've tried to avoid the topic of sales, but the reality is, and if you don't know this, I need to tell you this now, you do need to learn sales skills and marketing skills. You have to learn this. If you want to put yourself out there and you want to build a great business, you do have to figure out some of these skills, because we are by default marketers and salespeople, because we need to sell ourselves, we need to market ourselves, but we've got to meet our audience where they're at. And for me, my audience don't want to be sold. And so I've got to find a way to sell them without them feeling sold, and do it in a genuine way. And so it's just important that we dial in who the client avatar is first, I think.
So what is that like? So you were saying there's something you really want to get into that's important, and is that to do with like, yeah, like just clarify these things, because there's a few parts where you're saying this audience enjoys that, but this audience doesn't enjoy that. But there's also, I feel like there's this kind of like matrix going on, where, because sometimes you're selling what you're teaching as well. So if your audience don't want to be selling like these alpha knuckleheads, to quote you, but that means that they don't want to be sold to like an alpha knucklehead. So I'm sure no one wants to admit that, but I guess, does that mean that there are people that are appropriate for being sold to like an alpha knucklehead because they want to sell like that? So you're saying like you should sell to what you want to be sold to?
Well, okay, let's put it this way, because I've probably overcomplicated it.
Yeah,
you've got some people that will walk into a car dealership and they like the hustle and bustle of buying a car. So you've got some people that will walk in there, and if they've got a really strong salesperson that's using all the tactics, they enjoy getting into the mix with them and bartering and doing all that kind of stuff. And so you'll have those people, right? But for me, I'm not like that. In fact, it drives my wife nuts if we walk into a shop, if someone dare approaches me, and no, I know I shouldn't say dare approach me, because the first time is fine. If someone says, "Hey, can I help you?" and I say, "No, I'm fine, thank you, I'm just looking." Perfect, lovely interaction. See you later. If that person follows me around the store, starts pointing things out, oh, I think this might be looking, I'm out. I walk straight out the door. I hate it. It is so annoying, and it's just not the style of sales that I like. So I think the people that like the rah of sales, I would imagine they're few and far between. I think most people fall into the category of just feeling like sales is a dirty word, and so I think for the most part, everyone's going to relate to the stuff we talk about today.
Yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense, and I think you've really hit a nail with, well, you've struck a chord, I should say. Like, we actually talk about that all the time. And that's not true. Some people do like to be hounded by shop clerks, but at least our audience, we always say we don't like it when someone comes up to us. I hate it, because I'm like, okay, I'll buy everything, just leave me alone. Or I'm like, oh, okay, I'll run away. And I'm not a shy person by all means. I just don't like, it feels like an expectation is being put on me to buy or to, I don't know, ask for help. So yeah, I think that's really structural, and we talk about that. Yeah,
And it
that's
stops
cool.
people from wanting to go in the said shop. Like if you've got a day where you're feeling a little bit insecure, or you've got a day where you're wanting to be a bit quiet, you're not going in that shop at all. Like you're just not going to face it. It's like, no, not going in there today. So you just reduce the kind of footfall. I think people start to, you know, in relation to that being a digital product, then you've got people that start to get worried. Oh my God, if I give her my email address or my telephone number, I'm now going to be hounded for the next 2 weeks. And you know, and there was actually a company, I'm not going to name it, but that were actually shut down recently in the last year for being like that, like really hounding people all the time. Like you signed up for a webinar and you're getting called off the hook like all day.
I know who you're talking about as well.
Yeah, and that was that for me, that longevity piece. It's like I love my business and I love my people and I love this community and I want it to last and be alive for a time. And just the idea of, you know, being so short-sighted to hound people in that way that you not only end up getting shut down, but you also reduce the quality of the community at the same time. Just
well, if I can share a couple of extra things on that, because to put this into perspective, when we have people signing up for our coaching programs, it is not uncommon for us to hear this almost every time, where someone would say, you know, this has been the nicest sales process I've ever been through. And it's the reason I joined, because if this is how you do sales to get me in, then I want to learn how to do that to get my own clients. So people love the process. It feels so good to them. And furthermore, I don't know why you'd want to be so over the top, controlling and manipulative to get someone in, and then have the wrong person in your program, right? Like if we can make the sales process authentic, then you get the right people in your program, and that fires you up as a business owner, because you wake up in the morning knowing who you're working with, you feel great. I don't want to wake up in the morning and think, oh, flipping heck, I've got Barbara to speak to today. Why on earth did Barbara join? Well, it's because I convinced her to join and she wasn't the right person, you know? So you got to, sorry if there's a Barbara listening, it's not personal, lovely name.
We do have a Barbara client. This is not about you, Barbara. This is not about you. We actually love Barbara. Barbara's bloody fantastic. Don't you make Barbara feel like it's about her. It's not. Barbara is a placeholder name, Barbs, if you're watching. We love you. just to clarify.
Okay, John, let's get into it then. What is this? What is sales tactic, or this tactic's the wrong word? Like, how do you approach sales then? How do you keep it authentic but make it effective?
Yeah. So I guess I'll give you an overview, and then you can tell me how deep you want to go, because we can go as deep as you want. So I'll tell you how I came across this. So the way that everyone seems to teach sales in our industry is something called the one call close, right? One call close, you get a prospect on the phone, they come from a webinar, they come from a VSL, they come from some other, you know, traffic source and funnel strategy. And once they're on the phone, you want to do everything you can to get that person to say yes at the end, not say no at the end. And so a lot of the sales scripts and sales tactics that we'd be learning in our industry is designed to say and do all the right things to keep hemming the prospect in until eventually they get to the end and hopefully they say yes. And what ends up happening is you get to the point where you go through all this objection handling, which I'm sure, you know, your audience are familiar with. If you've ever been on the phone with a prospect, then, you know, if it's sounding good, you get to the end and you've got this objection handling. They've got fears, they've got concerns, they've got reasons why they don't want to do it, or not right now. And a lot of that comes quite simply just from fear. They're about to make a big decision and they feel fearful about it. And that's often why people want to get off the phone, right? If they say, let me think about it, or, you know, I don't want to do this, it's just because they're starting to feel the pressure of this big decision they're about to make. And so they kind of just want to be relieved of that pressure. And so what I was finding is, as we were as we were learning these strategies, myself, and then obviously my sales team as well, as we were learning these strategies, they were starting to feel a bit icky, but you kind of use them because it's what the industry teaches. So you think, well, this must be the way it's done. So let's just experiment and let's try this out. And it wasn't feeling great. It didn't feel like a great process. Conversion rates were quite low anyway. And what I was finding, and this is really, really important, is I was finding that although the one call close is the thing we're attempting, we're still going to a second call anyway. Because if I was talking with you, Caroline, and we were having a conversation, it was going the right direction. You know, we were deciding that, okay, we think it's a good fit here, but I'm using all the sales tactics to try to get you to say yes. And you just don't want to say yes on this first call. You want a bit more trust to be built. But here I am the more I push you, the more I just keep using these slimy one-liners, the more you're actually starting to be put off from the process. And we end up going to a second call anyway. And in the end, I have to just go, right, if I push any further, I'm going to lose Caroline altogether. So I better let her off the phone and we have a second call. So we're having a second call anyway, but you're being left with not the best impression now because I've just pushed you a little bit. And so the conversion rate on the second call is quite low as well. And so what I was finding is, okay, a lot of these calls are going to second calls, and taking all of that into account, they're often going to third calls as well. And maybe the prospect just ghosts you and you don't even hear back from them. And so I'll tell you where we got to. We got to collectively as a sales team, we were down at around about 15% conversion, which to some people that might sound okay, but actually it's not. That means that you speak to 10 qualified prospects, because these aren't just any old 10 people. The way, this is a whole another episode, but the way we get clients is through webinars. We have a high ticket webinar framework, and that makes sure we qualify the right people. So when I talk about getting 10 people on the phone, this is not just grabbing Jill off the street. This is someone who's really well indoctrinated into our world and really wants to speak to us. And then of those 10, 1 or 1.5 become a client, right? Well, that means that you're speaking to 9 people. If those calls are an hour, that's 9 hours of your time stretched over a few days of just exhausting conversations that don't go to anywhere. And so I thought, look, I'm gonna reinvent this whole thing, and I'm gonna do this in a way that feels right to me. And so I kind of made this up, but I made this up with. It's important to say this. My unique superpower, one of my key skills, is understanding people, is understanding persuasion, it's understanding how to connect with people, and that plays a big part in marketing. But I like that. I like, how do we move an audience, and how do we connect with people sincerely, but doing it where there is some strategy in there as well, so that we can grow our businesses. And so I figured I'm gonna make something up here, and I'm gonna just do it how I want to do it, but using some marketing tips and tricks along the way that I feel will work. And it took a bit of time. I was on the phones. I'm trying this out myself, and starting to see some success and honing in the framework and what needs to be said and how do we do it. And long story short, I got it working. It felt fantastic. I would get off every phone call thinking, I feel fired up. I don't feel dirty and like I need to go take a shower after that sales call. I actually feel like I'm feeling pretty good. This felt awesome. The prospect is loving the process. Everything's just awesome. And then I taught it to my sales team, and it took a while for them to get it. We had to get rid of some old habits and teach them some new stuff. And they started to get it this month. So we're recording this in March. This month to date, my average across our sales team is 44%. So we've gone from 15% to 44%, and we're talking about hundreds of thousands a month. Okay, so I think this month we'll probably finish on about 550,000, something like that. So we're talking about big numbers as well. So there's proof of concept. It's not just a one-off, sale. And the result is we feel great. The prospect feels great. Everyone loves it. So question probably now is, well, what is it then? What do we do differently? So I can roll straight into that. I call it and if you're taking notes listening to this, this is the moment where you'll want to grab your pen. So I call it the push and the pull script. Okay. The push and the pull, and it's a 2-part call process. So we ditch the 1 call close, forget it. We're not making an offer on the first call. We are only ever going to make an offer on the second call. And the first call now, the reason it's called the push call, and again, if you're taking notes, write that down. Call number 1 is the push call. We are pushing the prospect away a little bit, actually. So we're going to make it very clear to them on that first call that nothing's going to be sold to them. We want to make someone feel really comfortable. If I was now on the phone with you again, Caroline, I would start the call and I'd say, hey, Caroline, look, so excited to have a chat with you, connect with you, find out what you've got going on, see if I can help. For your peace of mind, I'm not going to sell you anything today. All right. And I really mean that. If we get to the end of the call, if you love it, if I love it, if we even end up talking about what my coaching looks like, you have my word, I'm not going to make you an offer. And here's why, and you can justify it in some way. You've got to find a reason that's true to you. But I would say something like, we've got a bunch of other calls on the calendar this week. And so if it's okay with you, I like to just have the opportunity to speak to everybody before I decide who I like to work with. So even if we really hit it off, I'd appreciate still being able to chat to everyone else. So keep your purse, keep your credit card. We're not going to do any of that today. So I've now made you feel, wow, okay, this feels really refreshing. This feels quite encouraging, actually, and it brings the guard down of the prospect. A lot of people get on a sales call and think, oh my gosh, I'm going to be sold, and so I've got to toughen up. But suddenly they let their guard down, and you have better, more honest conversations because they trust that nothing's going to be sold in the end. So there's a lot more we can get into. Perhaps we'll circle back in a minute, but the push script is we're pushing them away a little bit. They're not actually allowed to join. So the end of the call, we're keeping them at bay. And then we have a couple of days where if you like the sound of a prospect, then you book a follow-up and you chat to them again. And on the second call, that's when you invite them in. But the magic happens here in that when you get off the first call and they realize that you were true to your word and you weren't going to sell them, now, instead of getting off the first call, getting cold feet, feeling like they don't want to do this, telling their partner that they're thinking of doing this, and they're saying, are you crazy? You're going to give this person on the internet $10,000? What are you doing, you man? So instead, now they're not allowed in. So now they want what they can't have. So now they're going, I just got off a call with John, and that was so awesome. And he gave me so many great insights, and he really likes my business, and he thinks he can help, and I'm not even allowed in. So now the next 2 days, they're going, I really want to work with John. And now they're telling their partner, not that they're thinking about doing this thing, they're telling their partner, hey, I just had this great call and I really want to do this. I'm not even sure I'm allowed in yet. It sounds awesome. And so now their partner's kind of getting on board. Well, why weren't you allowed in? And, and just as John said in the chat, it builds this FOMO, fear of missing out. So you get on the second call and they're fired up and they're actually just waiting to see if you actually accept them as a client. So there's obviously a lot more structure to this. But ultimately, the one call close was going to a second call anyway. So to do my push and pull approach doesn't take any more time, same amount of time. It's just we've rearranged the way we do it, and everyone feels great.
When you were saying that, I actually was like, oh, I would love that call. Like it actually, there was a point where I was like, I wanted to heart this, and I was like, oh, we're on Zoom, I can't do that. But I actually, I actually felt a positive emotion just from understanding like how this goes, because I was like, I bet that, yeah, okay, it's a strategy that works. But I was like, I bet that results in a really fun and nice conversation, which is just an absolute unheard of thing for sales calls. So yeah, I was like, I'm on board. I like it.
Yeah, and do you know what I also really love as well is that I think we're all guilty of learning the traditional stuff that we're taught and taking it and doing it, and then sometimes it's a bit like, oh, why am I doing it this way? Like one of the examples of things that I'm guilty of was like pushing the whole 10K month message. And I realized, I had this realization of like, this whole 10K month 6-figure coach thing is toxic for people's self-worth, for their confidence. And I actually went out and publicly apologized. So because we used to have a program called the 10K boot camp, and I went out and apologized and about it, and was like, do you know, like I've just been following like what is the done thing in the industry. And so it's really rebellious to go, no, do you know what, I'm not going to follow the norm, I'm going to try it this way. And actually then you look back and you go, why didn't I listen to the intuition that I had when my body was telling me that this feels really gross and icky, but I'm just doing it anyway? Like that for me is really, really powerful to hear that is something that you did and then took things and changed. Like we it's the same. I'll put my hand up again and say I am in some ways have been initially following those sales tactics. And I remember getting off a call with one client once, like back in 2019, and got some feedback from him about how he felt after that call. And it was the standard line of like, what's your 16-digit number and all that kind of shit that we told to say. And after that, I was like, I'm not doing it anymore. So that I'm not doing this anymore. Like it feels awful. But it's really, really smart to put in that too. Cool.
Well, it's like that. There's one-liners that would be used that come to mind. Just to give an example of what we don't want to do, it's these one-liners like if the prospect says, I can't afford it, then you go to the sales rule book, you flick through. What do I say if I say that? Oh, I'm supposed to say, If you can't afford this, then you can't afford not to do this. What a stupid like. But it's these types of things. It's like, no, hold on a minute. If a prospect can't afford it, they can't afford it, and we don't want them in the program. It's not right for them, you know. So we have to be able to navigate these calls and find out if it's truly, because this is really important, and we're going a bit deeper now, but it's really important that when a prospect says I can't afford it, that we find out if they truly can't afford it, or if that's what we call a smokescreen. Because sometimes they'll be nervous and they'll say I can't afford it, but actually it's a cover up for just something else that's going on. And there's ways that we can navigate the call to find out if that's actually what's going on. But the reality is, if we come to the conclusion that this person truly can't afford it, then let's get off the phone, part ways with a smile, and wish them all the best. Because why would we want to try to shackle someone to a program that would put them in debt? Like, I just don't like it. I just don't like it.
Yeah, and the result of that is they're now in a situation where they're so stressed that they can't actually absorb or take anything from your program anyway.
Yeah.
But you know, their safety is now challenged, and they don't get the result that you wanted them to get in the first place, which just hampers everything.
They'll start making fear-based decisions, you know, and because of the financial pressure of being in the program, now they're not exactly like you just said, Cordelia. You know, now they're not following the process properly because they're trying to rush it and make fear-based decisions, and that's not going to work. I've never really seen that work very, very well. You know.
No.
I just want to anchor this in quickly before we move on, because what I would love to do, I love getting into stories. Like, I love getting into more of the background of people, but I feel like there's some kind of like value we can like offer. Like, is this something that you go into more detail with AdCon? Like, we're going to be transparent. We've got tickets for sale. We've also got an affiliate link. We'd love people to join. Cordelia is speaking on stage, and I'm going to be in the crowd like, woo, being a fangirl. So is this going to be at, are you going to go into more detail with this at AdCon out of interest?
Yeah, we will. We've got so much to cover, and the way we structure the event is probably different to how your audience are used to these types of events. You know, AdCon was born. If I can just take 60 seconds on this, you know, AdCon was born out of a frustration with all the things I do that tried to reshape an industry is born out of a frustration. You know, like sales, it was just frustrating, and so I kind of redeveloped it. I didn't really see many events here in the UK, if any, that just made sure that it wasn't just an event about sales in terms of selling from stage. There's just lots of stuff being sold, but instead, you know, true value. But more than just true value, because there's a lot of those events, and there's some great events in the UK. I don't want to trash talk anyone. There's some fantastic events in the UK. But if I can be so bold, I think some of them have a lot of great speakers going up one at a time, sharing some value, jumping off, and your attendees are left going, well, how do I piece all that together? It feels a bit jumbled and all over the place, and I'm kind of leaving with my head like exploding. Whereas at AdCon, you leave going, I got a blueprint. I got a freaking blueprint. I got what I need, because every session and every day is designed to lead to the next. So we've got a whole master plan that I'm going to lay out at the very beginning. I'll do the opening keynote and I'll lay out what the marketing master plan looks like, and then we will start to piece it together. And I've very carefully selected my speakers to play a key role, and Cordelia will vouch for this. You know, we spent quite a lot of time going backwards and forwards. I was saying, look, I just need to make sure that what you would teach fits into the master plan here. And when we have got there, and I think what she's going to bring is incredible. So I'm really, really excited. But we're going to go all the way from the very beginning. So we're going to say, okay, how do we refine and define a great offer? How do we package up an offer and package up what we have in a way that is really, really desirable? And then how do we put a message around that offer? That'd be another session. How do we define our client avatar for that offer? Another session. How do we talk about building a community around that? Cordelia enters the game. I've got a lady coming in all the way from Australia. I actually can't believe she said yes. She's coming all the way from Australia because there's one key topic that she teaches, and it's so perfect for the event that I hit her up and she said yes, and she's coming from Australia to teach one 30-minute section. That's how meticulous I am about this. So we're going to go all the way through that, through funnels, through traffic, and then it's a very roundabout way, Caroline, of saying yes, and then we'll finish up with sales, because that's an important part. So we'll talk about sales, and then we'll move to scaling. How do we, you know, leave on day 3 knowing exactly what we need to do to take all of this and start to scale it? So you don't leave the event going, whoa, that was so much and I don't know what to do with it. You leave going, I have the roadmap and I feel really, really great about it, you know. So it will be in there. Sales will be in there.
Well, I love that. That also speaks to things that I've had a personal frustration with in events. Like I get very, very inspired and very fired up at events, and I'm like, okay, but now I feel paralyzed and I don't know what to do. So yeah, that definitely hits it for me. Can we get the link in the chat so that we can
actually, yeah, we can get the link in the chat, but just to let you know, this is a like backdoor link that I'm going to give you guys. There's only general admission left because VIP and super VIP have sold out, and if you go to the AdCon website, you'll see that you can't actually buy tickets right now. So we've got a backdoor sneaky
really
link for you for general admission.
We've got touting. We've got our like raincoat open, like AdCon tickets, AdCon. It sounds really dodge. We're not dodge. We've got like the founder of AdCon on the call, but yeah,
well,
by backdoor, it just means special.
Well, it's important to mention that this is really, you know, sometimes you see these kind of sneaky marketing things and you think, oh, is that actually true? I'm literally here, like I said, at the AdCon venue today because we've arranged the tables and chairs today where VIP will be, because that's all sold out. And we actually genuinely needed to count how much space we've got left, because I think we're getting really tight. So we've closed down ticket sales right now as we came to the end of what we called our early bird pricing. And that came to an end. That expired on Friday, and then we closed the page down to give us just some breathing space, because ticket sales have actually gone better than we had ever have hoped. So we closed that down, breathe, yeah, exactly, yeah, breathing space, check out the room. But you know, for those of you that are here, we know that we're going to have space for the 5 or 10 of you that will probably grab a ticket today. We've definitely got space for that. So I arranged with Cordelia. We'll give you the early bird price that has now expired. We'll still give you that. Any space we have left will reopen at a significantly higher price. And we've also done a 20% coupon. So, I mean, it's peanuts. We lose money on tickets. I mean, we're spending £500,000 on this event. We go crazy. So it's going to be an experience. I lose money on the way in, but I do it because it fires me up and it excites me, you know?
And like, also just leading on from what we have been talking about, you know, John's given us insight into his sales strategy, how he uses sales in a way that feels good, in a way that supports people and also creates a buzz. Like one thing about a lot of these conferences that you go to in general, like across the world, I've been to a lot, you know, in the States and in the UK, is that they can be really pitch heavy. And I think, but one thing that I felt was so refreshing about you, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be, because I've watched AdCon when we were in lockdown. Like I had like online tickets, but I haven't been to the physical one. And I just think that the integrity and everything behind how you are and how you handle sales anyway, that in and of itself is going to just create such a great event, because it isn't going to be a pitch fest. And that's what I've seen people say about your events. It's not a pitch fest. There's so much great value there. And you've even said to me, like, no one's allowed to sell. Like, this isn't a thing where people come and they sell on stage. There's none of that. It's just like solid value for the speakers at this event. So I think that's like something just to mention as well, is that if John is like this with sales calls, like imagine how he is with big business events. I'm really excited.
Yeah, we've got some confirmation, 0 selling. We've even got someone who's regretting their trip to Venice. So, I mean, yeah, okay, yeah.
That's all right. Venice will still be there. You can always go later.
Yeah, AdCon's not there for that long. You got to get in there.
We just got a few more minutes. I'd love for us to drill into the conversation that we were having previously before about AdCon, which is we were talking about the sales strategy, the 2-step sales, the push and the pull. Is it push and pull? Those are the right words?
Push and pull. Yep, very good. You got it. Great.
So what I want to know, what happens in between those 2 calls? So you have that first call, you push them away, you essentially, I imagine you've got them booked in for that second call on that first call. Like, what do you do between those 2 points?
Yeah, that's a great question. If you don't mind, I'll go back a step then, and I'll tell you what we get to by the end of the first call, so that it'll make more sense, if that's okay. Yeah. So on that first call, you're going to connect with the prospect in the way that I said. You know, you're going to make it clear that nothing's being sold, and you know, we're just going to get to know each other here, right? And just see if I can help. And then we go into a section I call the detective, where, you know, you just pre-prepare a bunch of questions, right? Just what are some standard questions that you would need to ask a prospect to find out where they're at, what they've got going on, what their struggles are, what their strengths are, and what they're currently needing help with, right? And then we're making notes all the way along. And those questions should lead to more questions. You know, a big part of sales is do more listening than talking. In fact, you're probably going to do 80% listening and 20% talking. Everything you're doing during that detective phase is simply asking questions and then waiting for the answer. And that leads to your next question and you wait for the answer. And by the end of the detective, that's probably 20 minutes, 25 minutes. That's actually where you decide, do I actually like working? Would I want to work with this person? And you have to sincerely make that decision. And that's the moment where you might get off the phone. So, you know, if I was talking to you, Caroline, and I'm just going to pick on you again because we've used this example. Well, we've used this example already, so we'll stick with you. But now this is going to be a bad example because, you know, let's say that everything you said, I'm just not liking, right? And I just think, actually, this just doesn't sound good. And so I'm going to wrap it up. I do this thing called wrap it up, where you repeat back to the prospect what you've heard and understood, you know. Relationship counselors will talk about this, right? To make people feel understood, you mirror back to them what have they said, and by doing that, they go, okay, they understand, they got me, that they're hearing me. So we do that, you know, we wrap it up and we say, look, Caroline, you know, thank you so much for your honesty so far, and here's what I'm hearing. I just want to make sure I've understood this correctly. Here's what I'm hearing, and you do a quick summary of what you've heard, and that summary might be appealing to you, to me, as the salesperson, as the marketer, as the coach. I'm liking the summary. I think that if you agree to my summary, that I'm like, okay, Caroline would be a great client. But I might also be summarizing a not so good scenario. I might say, Caroline, look, here's what I'm hearing. What I'm hearing is you've tried webinars before and they haven't worked and you've lost faith in them. And to be honest, you're looking for another strategy because you've just lost all hope in it. You don't have any money for paid ads. So you've got to find some free strategies because there's just no budget for that. Regardless, you wouldn't even be able to start doing something, you know, to fix this in the next, you know, until 3 months. You've got lots of commitments. Have I understood that correctly? And if you say yes, that's when I'm going to get off the phone, because you're not going to be the type of client that I can work with. You can't get started now, and the topic I teach you're not interested in or can't do. So I'll wrap it up either way. And that's where I might get off the phone at that point, respectfully, nicely. But I'll just say, Caroline, look, if that's the case, I really appreciate your time. It means a lot to me. I don't want to waste any more of it because I don't think I can help you, you know. And so I wish you all the best. Maybe I'll send you some book recommendations in an email. But I wish you all the best. But if the summary is good, we progress, right? And then we go on the call a bit further. And then it will always happen. If you're talking to a prospect that you like and they like you, it will naturally go in this direction where they'll ask you about what it's like to work with you. It's just the way it's going to go. It's like it's part of our script, but it's just going to happen anyway. And so you might say, yeah, well, I would get towards the end of the call and I'd say, Caroline, look, I've loved our chat. I feel I could really help you. This is the exact type of thing that we do with our clients. And I think I've got everything I need for my notes. Have you got any questions? Anything you want to talk about? And that lead-in question will always end with the prospect saying, well, I suppose, yeah, well, what is it like to work with you? Or what is your coaching program? And here's the real key, is you move to something I call the push pitch. And this is where you pitch the offer, but you push them away. And so my response to that would be, yeah, Caroline, absolutely. I'm very happy to walk you through all of that. I do just feel compelled to remind you at the beginning of the call, I said, I'm not going to sell you something, and I'm going to stick to that. So, you know, I'm very happy to walk you through the offer, what's included, how it works, how much it is, you know, all of that stuff. But just for your peace of mind, again, we'll both go away and have a think and we can reconvene. Now, what I've just done right there is for you, if there was any doubt in the back of your mind that I was not telling the truth in the beginning, you realize now I was telling the truth. And so now your guard is fully down and your FOMO meter is fully up, right? And so now you say, yeah, that's fine. And you're feeling good, going, that's a really refreshing way of doing sales. And my response to that, awesome. Okay, great. As long as you know that, then if you're ready, get a pen and paper, because I'm going to whiz you through this and it's really exciting. here's what it's like to be a client. Here's what you get. Here's what happens. Here's the resources. Here's what we're going to do. Here's the goal. Here's what we do with you. Caroline, you said your biggest problem is this, and we've got a resource for that. We've got this, we've got this, we've got this. And then you just sell your heart out. You sell your heart out as authentically as you want to. You just tell them about why you're so excited about your program, what's included. And all that's happening is they're not feeling sold. They're just feeling this insane FOMO because they're not even allowed it yet. And so that's kind of where we're getting to the end of the call, is now they're not allowed it, but they're going to really, really want it. And then you answer all their questions. You get a few tie downs. You just make sure that if they're accepted, that they would want this. And if they're accepted, what payment option would they be looking to do? If they're accepted, how quickly would they be looking to start? So we get some of those tie downs, and then we reconvene in a couple of days. And I find 1 to 2 days is a nice amount of time, because let's not forget, you go through this whole process, but you may want to actually go away and think about it. And this is the part that we don't often talk about is, I'm talking with Caroline and everything's sounding good, but I genuinely just want to go and get a bit of headspace. I do my best thinking when I'm not in a conversation where there's a need for immediate response. I like to gather information without saying much, and then I like to go away and think. So I might want to just, do the push pitch, get all that, on the table, but I might genuinely want to go away and have a think about all that you've said, Caroline, and whether I actually want to work with you. Because for some of the people listening, you might have limited spaces to work with you, right? And if you've got a good marketing machine, which you'll learn about at AdCon, and you'll learn all the pieces that you need to get high quality calls booked, then you might genuinely be in a position where you can't accept everybody. And if that's the case, then you get to choose who you want to work with. So you get to go away and have a think as well, and reconvene in a couple of days. And so circling back to your original question, Cordelia, we do all of that. We get off the phone. Everyone feels great. We've booked a second call. We're going to talk in 2 days' time. And all that's happening for them is they're just getting excited and waiting to see if they're accepted.
Awesome. Now, one thing that I think is a bit confusing is that when you tell them that, you've got all these other calls booked in, you just said 2 days' time. So how are you communicating that you're having all those calls before you jump on the follow-up?
Yeah, very good. So there's a couple of ways that you can do this. Number one is you can have the time between the first call and the second call, I guess, match up with the other calls you've got on your calendar. So if you've really got like truly a very, very busy week, then you might actually decide, I'm speaking to this prospect on a Monday and I can't speak to him again till Friday. Like I really do need to get through all of these calls. So 2 days is just, I guess, a helpful number just for everyone to just write down if they're starting from scratch. But if depending on how busy you are, you'll extend that period of time. And if you've just got a couple of calls tomorrow, then that part of the process, you might just say, look, I've got a couple of calls tomorrow, so I'd just like to be able to speak to those people, and then we can reconvene at the end of tomorrow once I've spoken to them. So you base it around, what's going on in the business.
Yeah, because it's like you bring in a cohort of sales calls off the back of a webinar that's happening once a month, for instance, and then all of those calls. Okay, I'm with you. I get it. I'm on board.
But here's another strategy, Cordelia, because some of your listeners might be saying, but John, what do I do if this is my only call on the calendar and there's no one else? And then I would be telling a porky if I was to say that. There's other ways to do it. I'll give you another example. But then there's loads of different ways to do it. You just got to find a way to justify the reason to get off the phone that's true to the business, right? So it could be I'll give you 2 more examples. I'll give you 2. And then I think we've covered everyone on the line and would have some reason to give. So the other idea might be to say that you want to check with the team. If anyone on the line has a team, maybe you've just got a personal assistant. They are your excuse now. So you say, look, I've just got an arrangement with my team that every time I take these calls, I would just always share my notes with them. And we always make a collective, team decision. So I just want to check with this is all sounding great. I love our chat. This is awesome. I would just like the opportunity to just share my notes with the team and see what they think. So that's another example. And then a third example can quite simply and quite honestly just be that you want to go away and have a think, that's just the type of person that you are. And the prospect will be hearing that and thinking, yeah, that's me too. So you can just quite simply say, look, Caroline, loving this call. I really feel like we could do something together. I'm quite excited about this. If it's okay with you, I do my best thinking when I just have a bit of space. And so I would appreciate if we could just take, I don't know, just 24 hours. Would you mind if I just sit with these notes? And I'd like to do a bit of further research on your business and what you've got going on. And I just want to make sure that I'm fully confident that I could help. And perhaps you'd like the opportunity to go away and think as well. And they'll say yes. And you say, awesome. So let's do that. Shall we reconvene in 24 hours? So, I mean, pick one of those three and that covers everybody.
That's great. I really like that. I actually, I like the idea of just being like, we've had a really in-depth conversation and I told you I wasn't going to sell to you. I actually quite like the idea of going, look, I would actually like to have a sales conversation next, but let's have like a break. Let's just like take some time out. Like, how do you feel about saying, oh, okay, like I think with one of our clients yesterday, I had a call when they were talking about approaching a sales conversation, but there was a sort of a value offer wedge. So the point of this person being on the sales conversation with her was to receive some free value. And she's like, well, how do I get into the sales conversation? And I was like, okay, we'll just be transparent. Say the purpose of this call is to give you value. However, I think you'd be great for as a client, and I would love an opportunity to talk to you about my offer at the end and ask for permission to have a sales conversation. So what's your thoughts about actually saying next we can talk about sales, but this is your sort of honored space?
I don't think you need to do that, and I don't actually think it'll be as effective, because we tried lots of these different approaches, and one of the things that we tried was keeping those two things separate. But you do want to get in that first call, you do want to talk about the offer and share it, but keep in mind what you've just presented there is the idea, okay, we're going to keep the first call value and the second call sales. I don't think it needs to be as black and white as that. You can start to build the desire for your program without the sales. So you can kind of blend the two, because what I just described to you there, and of course we're limited for time, but if you were to listen in on one of these sales calls and how they happen, the first call sounds like just tremendous value, so comfortable, everything's wonderful, but they leave the call knowing what the offer is, knowing how much it is, and now kind of wanting it. But there was no hint of sales behavior. There was no hint of pushiness. There's just no hint of it. So I think you can kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah. Oh, we've been trying to replace that phrase this week, John.
Oh yeah.
There are all these like really inhumane phrases that we all use, like so many ways to skin a cat, like how to kill all the birds with one stone. And we've been trying. The best alternative we've got at the moment is grow an entire garden from one seed.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yes, we need better. Feed two birds with one seed. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't have the same.
Sounds like rationing, doesn't it? Sounds... Anyway, John, thank you so much, guys. I mean, if you hadn't met John before and you didn't have an insight into how awesome he was, like, I hope this has given you that. What an absolute legend! It's been an honor to have you on the show today. And I'm really, really looking forward to AdCon. I know we've got a lot of rebels who already had tickets to AdCon who will be there, which is super exciting. And yeah, really looking forward to seeing you guys at AdCon. And if you haven't got your ticket yet and you want to come, you have a short window to go and grab the early bird. What is it that you've given them again, John? Just outline it for me one more time.
Yeah, absolutely. So early bird ticket price expired on Friday. That's gone for good. We've temporarily closed down ticket sales. So if you go to adcon.co.uk, that's worth writing down, by the way, adcon.co.uk. That's our main event page. If you know nothing about the event, you can go there and get all the details. But you'll notice that it's just a wait list there because you can't buy a ticket right now. We're currently closed down. And I'm here at the venue right now to decide how much space is actually left and how many tickets we can sell. We're getting very, very close. And what we've done for you rebels here today is we've got a link for you to go directly to the checkout page, and that will give you the early bird price that is now publicly expired. When we open tickets back up, it'll be significantly more. And we've also got a coupon code, which is Rebels. It's in the chat there, where you can even get an extra 20% off. So it comes down to something like £240 before VAT. I mean, it will be the best money I believe you've ever spent. This 3 days, the feedback that we get is that this was more than 10K workshops that are 3 days. I mean, it's truly It's like nothing you've ever experienced before. So you'll absolutely love it.
I can imagine. I can imagine. And also just to say, if you are coming, please let me know. Even if you've had your tickets for ages. I see Sarah's coming. She's had a ticket for ages. Let me know, because we'd love to do a Rebel meetup. Love doing events like this. We'll go to Wagamama's one evening, or figure out a way that fits in with John's schedule to have a Rebel meetup. And if anyone is going to AdCon for the first time on their own, let us know, because we will make sure that you've got someone to walk into the event with. It can be really, really daunting, but you don't need to walk in alone. We've got people going, and we're going to get together. So please do let me know if you consider yourself a rebel and you want to hang out with the rebels at AdCon. Let me know that you're coming, and we will make sure that you are not there alone if it is your first time as well. John, thank you for your time. You're really, really busy at the moment. I can't imagine how bloody mental it is being in the run up to the huge event you're putting on. You found the time to come and speak with the rebels. I really, really appreciate that. It's been really, really insightful, and
you've added so much.
I'm ready.
You've added so much value as well. It's been so very tangible. Love that. Like, it's very practical, very tangible, and I think you really spoke to the pains that our audience struggle with, and I think really related with them as well. Like, I don't often hear people talk about sales, not necessarily just integrity, but with like connecting to what a lot of people, normal people, because they're the people that run businesses, struggle with. And I think that you really connected with the genuine problems and outlined a way to overcome that. So I think it's amazing content that you've provided for us today, and some real tangible, practical benefits. I'm very excited to see you at AdCon. It's going to be great.
Thank you. Thanks very much. I really appreciate that. And it might be worth saying, I know that when you leave an interview like this, where we've just hashed out a topic, it can feel a bit discombobulated because we've just talked about two different scripts. I do have a framework that visually represents call number one, call number two, and tells you exactly what to say all the way along. I can give that to your community for free if that would be helpful. So I'll connect with you, Cordelia, send you a link, and then they can get access to those two frameworks, so you can visually see what we've been talking about, and you can get that for free.
Yes, I'm a visual person. I would love that, and I'm sure our guys would love that as well. So yeah, thank you so much. Please send that to me, and I'll drop that in the Facebook group, guys. I will drop it in the Facebook group, so check back. I'll put it in the featured section. Thank you very much. Right, well, that is a wrap. We are going to be back live in the Rebellious Business Network group tomorrow for day 4 of building a thriving digital community, and we hope to see each and every one of you, or as many of you as possible, at AdCon. But whichever event we see you at in the next coming days, weeks, months, have an amazing time between now and then, and we can't wait to see you then. Lots and lots of love, guys. Speak to you very soon. Bye, John.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.